Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have a back to school update for food and nutrition. And what I'm going to be covering with you today on my agenda is fall feeding models. And they do relate to you guys as you are part of the finance team. Newly released opt-in waiver forms by TDA. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about the federal reimbursement for school lunch meals and how that works, loans to the CNP program. And then I do have a list of folks that are coming up for administrative review, procurement review, and financial reviews. That's a lot, I know. It's been different, right? So for fall feeding models, one of the things that I need to remind everybody present is that we are no longer in pandemic feeding, right? So last year when school closed in March and we finished out the school year under an unanticipated school closure, Congress adopted a new law that allowed school districts to continue feeding under a community feeding model, which is, you know it as summer feeding or summer food service program. And that was able to address feeding the community 18 children or students 18 and under at any site, right? And it worked out well. However, for the 2021 school year, we are now inside of the National School Lunch Program. So we are no longer in community feeding. We need to feed the kids that are enrolled in our school district. So that is going to get very challenging because we are being asked to collect data at the curbside. We need to know who's coming up at the curbside or at the bus stop. That child needs to be tied back to their campus. So some fall feeding models that we have is, for example, the cafeteria. When you come back to face-to-face instruction, there's social distance, and this is also up to the LEA local processes. The MIC model, which is meals in the classroom. We also have meals in the hallway. We have curbside meal service. We have grab and go and home delivery. This is possible under the waivers that I have in my PowerPoint. Number 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37, through the extension of the non-congregate meal service. This is a big deal. Being able to consume the meal off-site has never been practiced in our program. A child must consume the National School Lunch distributed meal at their site, at their campus. Let me start my video. Okay, so there's also a waiver for extension of flexible meal service times under the 3 meal programs, the extension of parent guardian pickup meals for children, and meal pattern flexibilities through June 30th of 2021. Meal pattern flexibility is intended for some type of food shortage, or the lack of availability of specific vegetable or grain, or, you know, we did see some issues occur while we were feeding during pandemic feeding under the unanticipated school closure. There were some items that were not being manufactured. The last one, I'm just going to mention, it's a offer versus serve option for senior high school. That waiver addresses there's regulation that states that high school must provide an offer versus serve option. And through this waiver, then you can waive that option and just serve the high school student the entire meal. What is the difference between congregate and non-congregate feeding? And I covered that under the waivers. But if you imagine a congregate feeding style is a student consumes their meal in the cafeteria or in an area together with the other students, and we have control. We are counting these students. We're seeing them, they're there. And non-congregate, a student consumes their meal off-site. They take it with them. Again, remember that the non-congregate is unheard of. I mean, we've never done this before, but we are doing this under a USDA national waiver to address the social distance that is occurring during this pandemic. The federal reimbursement, the CNP operates on after the fact federal reimbursement after serving a complete reimbursable meal. That holds true for breakfast, lunch, snack, after school at risk, and supper. All of these items and all of these activities are reimbursed after the fact. There is no additional reimbursement at this time for any other expenses beyond the production of a meal, the service of this meal, and then claiming that for reimbursement. You can, if you have any questions for me, go ahead and put them in chat. I don't have the chat feature open right now, but I can open it at the conclusion of my presentation, and I will take questions if you have anything related to my presentation. Loans to CNP, and this has been somewhat of a hot topic because we saw the lack of revenue. We saw a reduction in revenue when schools closed back in March till the end of the school year. So the ARM, or the Administrative Reference Manual, covers loans from CE account to S&P retroactively determined as a loan, and that is ARM section 14.65. CEs must not retroactively determine that funds transferred from the general fund to cover S&P deficits are a loan subject to repayment. We are all in agreement that this federal program operates in this sense that the district agrees to fund any shortfall. And that is regardless of pandemic, prior to pandemic, that is the way that this program operates. For a liability to exist, a bona fide loan agreement between the CE and the S&P must be in effect at the time that the funds are transferred. Records that demonstrate existing agreement include a written agreement and financial records that document the contributions from the CE to S&P, or the school nutrition program, as well as from the S&P to the CE. And I put a big bubble in my PowerPoint that says there's new guidance that states the agreement should be shared with TDA for review. Okay, this is not a requirement. However, in one of the phone calls that we had with the Texas Department of Ag, it was suggested that these agreements be shared with them so that they are compliant and that you don't engage in some type of an agreement that is considered at a later time not compliant, and then all of it just needs to, you would need to make all kinds of modifications to the S&P budget. Okay, so administrative reviews. This did not go away. There is no waiver to cancel or postpone the administrative review process. The school districts in my screen are EdCouch, Idea, La Villa, Los Fresnos, Mercedes, Monte Alto, Progreso, San Isidro, South Texas ISD, Zapata. My pinks, the Idea, South Texas, EdTech, and South Texas ISD, they had their review last year. And the reason they're in pink is because there is like one item that transferred over to this new school year that is going to be taken care of, and then we will move on. They are not getting a full review. They just need to close off last year's review. The remainder of the districts are on full administrative review cycle. TDA did apply and receive a waiver from USDA to convert the old cycle of reviews, which was 3 years, to 4 years. Unless the district showed a high risk, then they would place that district on a 3-year cycle. So these are the administrative reviews. Now, the caveat was that in sending the notices of folks that were on the review cycle, they sent it to everyone because procurement reviews for last school year were postponed to this year. So what you're seeing the list on your screen, this is 2 years worth of procurement reviews. So a lot of you got a letter saying you're gonna get a review, you're gonna get a procurement and administrative review, but the reality is that only the ones on the AR cycle on that list are the ones that are getting a full AR. And then all of these folks on this list are going to receive a procurement review. And what does that look like? And I'm so glad Lori covered all of that material in great length and at great depth, because it's a good refresher and it's a great reminder. These procurement reviews target the previous year procurement. And they are going to be handled virtually. So nobody's going to come on site. Everything needs to be uploaded into a website, and there's a lot of documentation. There's a lot of communication that goes on between the food service director, the purchasing director or coordinator, and the monitor that's assigned by TDA. Also, inside of the procurement review, before I move on, and inside of the administrative review, there is something called a financial review. So there are some questions that where you will need to upload a general ledger, a statement of accounts, you will need to upload a vendor paid list, and that is needed so that the monitor can create a sample list of contracts and vendors that they will be auditing. So I wanted to make sure that I did mention that. Part of the administrative review is also hiring standards for new school nutrition program directors. There is a professional standard where all child nutrition professionals must meet a minimum standard of training per year, as well as hiring practices for your food service director. So there are some requirements that need to be in place. New directors are required to be food safety certified, and that's not difficult to obtain. For the most part, you must have relevant school nutrition experience of about 2 to 3 years, depending on the size of the district. Our program conducted a webinar series, and I added this as a last minute update because I wanted to brag a little bit and I wanted to share this great news with you. The FNP department conducted 13 webinar series over a period of 2 weeks. And we brought in all of the child nutrition professionals, all the ladies, to come in and take all kinds of training from counting and claiming, how to recognize a reimbursable meal. And then we took it basic to kitchen math, how to convert recipes using a fraction conversion. And imagine doing that virtually and also with staff that was very nervous about technology. Somehow we made it work. We had 100 people in each of the sessions. There was no flaws. It was really flawless. Everybody knew exactly what to do. And so much so that we even added extra challenges. We added polls instead of a pop quiz. So a pop quiz would pop up in the middle of the screen. And some of these ladies were using their cell phone to join us in Zoom. They were switching out of the Zoom to use their calculator and switching back into Zoom to enter the right answer in the poll. And so that's really amazing. If you look at the picture I have on the left-hand side, you see the clapping hands, the hurrahs, great job, and all the comments that they provided to our team, which is very welcome. And I'm just really happy with the results. They did really well. So your staff, you can rest assured they are ready for fall. They are not staying behind with training, and they have a great attitude for the fall start of the school year. They know that it's going to be a great challenge in counting some of these kids in, but they are focused on serving their kids the meals to get them ready for virtual school. My resources for today, of course, is we have a presence on the Region 1 website for the ESC FNP team. We try to update it as fast as we can. However, you know that guidance changes almost daily. I do have the Texas Department of Agriculture website where you can find the ARM, you can find COVID resources, and you can also find the frequently asked questions. This is a living document. The frequently asked questions contains all the questions from districts on allowability, compliance, fall feeding models, and also the update on waivers as approved and issued by USDA. This latest document is dated August the 10th. It usually updates every 3 days, every 4 days, and sometimes even late at night. They will update it on us and we have to go dig in there and get some answers to our questions.